to the final episode of Season 3 of the PipeBomb Wrestling Podcast, a show that is for the fans, by the fans. I'm your phenomenal host, Mr. Podcast, Chris Belcher. Follow me at Chris Belcher24 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The show is at PBWP Podcast. Give us a follow, interact with us. We would appreciate it. Andy York, the Young Buck, is here, my co-host, partner in crime. And Andy, last one of the season, man.
Yeah, last one of the season. And, you know, it's been a fun ride. We're here though at the end of the season, and looking forward to starting off again next year.
Yeah,
which is like 3 weeks from now, but we're starting off in the next year, and looking forward to it.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be great. We're gonna take a couple weeks off, as we said last week. So we will start back up the first week of January. So if you don't see our show between now and then, don't be alarmed. In fact, if you don't see our show, it's a great opportunity to go back and catch up on all the things we talked about and the PBWF, our fantasy booking show. Make sure you check that out as well. Available on the same feed as you're getting this show on, dropping every Tuesday. Make sure you check that out. We're almost at the end of the season 1 of that. Can't hardly believe it. If you've missed out, Andy, they missed a ton if they're missing out on that show.
You have missed a ton. You've also, we were ahead of the curve on a lot of the feuds, especially in AEW. I feel like I have booked AEW half the year.
You have, that's true.
And so, if you want to see what happened before it happened, or you want to know what happens before it happens, come listen to our show.
There you go. Go check it out. Make sure you do. Also, while you're at it, make sure you hit that subscribe button on the BodySlam.net YouTube channel. Make sure you follow them on social media. Make sure you follow SportsWire Radio on social media. Give them some love. Sportnarium.com/player.
Yep.
And subscribe to us wherever you find your podcast, on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and all those other great places. All right. Last week, we talked WWE year-end awards. It was fun to be able to go back and look at what an incredible year 2022 has been. But we wouldn't be doing ourselves justice. We wouldn't be doing a wrestling podcast right if we didn't hand out the awards on the AEW side. So let's do it. Let's get right to it, man. We started with Moment of the Year in WWE, so I think it's a fitting place to start an AEW as well. And, man, we could go 1,000 different directions for AEW Moment of the Year. I'm going to let you kick it off, though. What do you think?
Yeah, so I'll give the one that I think is the Moment of the Year first.
Okay.
And then we'll give some honorable mentions. I think the Moment of the Year is still the MJF pipe bomb that he cut before he took his hiatus after losing to Wardlow. That's just, that's a promo that defines a character in wrestling.
Sure does.
You think of Punk's, you think of Stone Cold cutting his 316 promo. This was MJF's moment, and I think he absolutely knocked it out of the park.
I think he did too. And then Punk coming out of the end and all that, the way they did all that. Yeah, I think it was wild for sure. If we're talking about Punk,
you got to talk about it. Just go ahead and rip the Band-Aid
You
off.
have to talk about the media scrum.
Yeah.
Like we talked about moments for WWE that were both in and out of the ring. The media scrum is, I think, what we're going to come away from 2022 talking about.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think the media scrum was
just like Vince retiring in WWE. Like this is what defines the whole year.
It is, and I think part of it is because it happened so late in the year too.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this is what people are going to remember. Like we're going to remember this press conference. If it happened earlier in the year, we would remember it, but I don't think it would be as fresh as it still is to us now.
Yep.
It was I remember after the show, I was just literally just sitting watching something else. I remember, and all of a sudden, I saw Twitter blowing up, and I was like, "What is happening?" What turned on the press conference? Like, oh wow, we are broken right now. What is going on? And it's just the whole press conference, not just the Punk part, but the whole press conference is just, it's a crazy trip that was amazing to watch live.
It really was. Yeah, it was wild. I remember turning it on. I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm going to turn this off. This is ridiculous. This is Punk being Punk.
Yeah.
And then after that, reading everything that happened afterwards and everybody trying to put Band-Aids over it.
Yeah.
And then the fight and blah, blah. It's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. That's definitely there. I think another one, if we're talking things outside the ring, you got to talk about Cody leaving.
Yes.
Like that's a moment of the year is Cody leaving AEW because we never would have thought that was going to happen.
Right.
Like that was one of the biggest shocking moments. We did a breaking news episode on, which we never do.
Nope.
Was, Cody leaving AEW. And we were both like, what is AEW going to do for it? Like, what are they going to do now? And then honestly, they haven't needed him that, from an in-ring on-screen perspective, they have not needed him. Backstage,
yes,
probably. In the ring though, on screen, I don't feel like, man, I'm missing Cody this week. Like that has not popped up in my head. So I think it was a good move for both companies or for both parties. But it was just a weird moment. It was a shocking moment.
See, I'm the opposite. I feel like AEW has a hole without Cody there. Like I know that there were some questionable things with, the Malachi Black feud and Cody winning the third match, and we can argue all day that Malachi went downhill after that.
Yeah.
And then you can argue that, well, Cody putting himself in the hole by saying if he lost early, he wasn't going to challenge for the world title. And you can argue a lot of things that Cody was holding people down, like Triple H held people down in WWE.
Yeah.
So some, whatever. You can make all those arguments, but I do think that AEW misses the presence of a Cody Rhodes because I don't know that they have somebody that combines the charisma and the old school flavor and just the blue collar traditional wrestler. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can make that argument for Bryan.
I think you can make the argument for Moxley.
See, I don't, because he's more of the Stone Cold type brawler, you know, kind of thing.
But the thing about Stone Cold is he was a blue collar guy.
I don't mean blue collar as
no,
in,
I know
like,
you're talking about like a Dusty character that is like the pure baby face through and through. Everybody wants to cheer for. I agree to a degree. I think something like a Jungle Boy has kind of taken that place a little.
I
think Kenny is taking that place.
Yeah.
Here recently. Like you said, I think Bryan Danielson takes that place. I think Claudio could too. Like Claudio is a big name. Eddie Kingston is also somebody that
right
can take that.
I just mean from like a very technical, old school flavor, really focused on telling a story in the ring and not worried about stars or not worried about spots or whatever. I think that's sort of missing from AEW. And I think he fills that void. So now I will say not every AEW show that I sit and watch like, man, Cody would add so much to this or that or whatever.
Right.
But when I look at it from a 30,000 foot view, I think that type of person is something that AEW is missing, both in and out of the ring.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I want Cody to be that because I'm so happy he's in WWE, but I think they're missing that type of person.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was more glaring when they went through the injury bug.
Yes,
and
sure.
Kenny was gone, Moxley was gone for a little while, Danielson was gone, Adam Cole was gone. Like there were a lot of people that were just kind of missing.
Yep.
And I think it was like, man, this is when you need Cody the most. But now that everybody's kind of back, other than Adam Cole, now that everybody's kind of back, it's like I don't need Cody anymore.
Right.
Like Cody, he doesn't fit in here. And I think that honestly, I think in AEW that traditional style wrestler doesn't necessarily fit in that company.
I get it. Yeah, no, I'm totally on board with that. We talk about the Elite a whole lot. I think you have to say a moment of the year candidate is their return.
Yeah, absolutely.
At Full Gear.
The song, the background. It's it's my phone background is the Titantron with the Elite behind it and the music playing. That was fantastic.
Yep.
The way they handled that was amazing. I think you also got to throw Okada showing up before Forbidden Door. That was a huge moment because that does not happen.
Yep.
is Okada showing up on American TV. When the coin dropped, it was a huge reaction.
Yep, it was huge. I'm going to throw an honorable mention out there that maybe might not get a lot of love, but it was cool to me, is Christian Cage turning on Jungle Boy.
Yeah, that was a moment. No, that was definitely a moment.
Huge.
I'm surprised you didn't bring up Double J showing up.
Well, Double J showing up. Hey, that was a good one. That was great. Double J. We didn't even talk about Jeff Hardy showing up. That's a moment.
I forgot that even happened this year.
Right.
And the whole Jeff Hardy saga that happened.
Right.
That's crazy.
But,
that happened this year.
But that moment
was really cool.
Pretty big.
Yeah, that was a big moment.
For sure. All right.
And I think you could throw another one that just recently happened is 10 turning on Dark Order.
Yes.
Like that's like a moment. That's like the Rampage moment that I remember the most is that moment right there.
That was big for sure. Wrestling is defined in moments. AEW certainly provides a lot of them.
Yeah.
WWE as well. So we talked about that. So a lot of great things in 2022 that happened. Let's talk about pay-per-view of the year. To me, it's not even close.
Neither.
Revolution.
And Forbidden Door.
Oh, okay. I can see that.
Yeah, I think Forbidden Door for me was the thing that we have been wanting since AEW had started. Mm-hmm. And you could argue it's a couple years too late, but that still doesn't take away from how special that night was, like, and like the wrestling that night was off those matches were fantastic.
Sure they were.
They were off the chain. So yeah, that's one of those that I think for me, Forbidden Door is probably the pay-per-view of the year.
I'm gonna go Revolution just because I looked at it from a traditional AEW standpoint. I didn't really categorize Forbidden Door, but I absolutely I see where you're coming from for sure. I'll say Revolution just if I'm picking between the 4 AEW ones.
Yeah,
the dog collar match, the Adam Cole Hangman Page, Danielson and Moxley, Jericho and Kingston, just all of that. Just
it was the AEW pay-per-view that we want.
Yes,
from every pay-per-view is every feud going into it feels huge,
right?
And the matches pay off.
Speaking of matches and feuds, match of the year in AEW / feud of the year, if it kind of goes back and forth. I'm going to throw one out. You can call me a Cody Rhodes homer if you want to. But that ladder match at Beach Break with Sammy Guevara.
Fantastic.
You have to put it up there.
Greatest cutter of all time happened.
For sure.
That match, the greatest cutter of all time.
Oh my
gosh. That match was on my list as match of the year. I think you can't have a list like this and not put Punk and MJF's dog collar match on there.
For sure.
Like that is fantastic.
Yep.
I think the Elite versus the United Empire was amazing.
Yes, that was really
as
good.
Well as, which I can't believe this is on my list, but it is, Will Ospreay versus Orange Cassidy.
It's on my list too, and I can't. You can't believe it's on your list. I can't believe it's on my list.
But that match was ridiculous.
That match was way better than it had any business being.
Yeah,
so good.
I mean, Bryan Danielson versus, and you could just fill in the blank, and it's on this. It's on this list.
You could,
because you got Paige, you've got Daniel Garcia, you got Mox, like Jericho, probably not.
Yeah.
But those three were ridiculous.
So good.
And then I'm a hardcore guy, so Adam Page and Adam Cole's Texas Death Match was crazy.
I thought you were going to the direction that was on my list of being a hardcore guy. Anarchy in the Arena was really good.
It was. Well, they didn't call it that this year. He said he was done with that bull crap.
Well, that was this year. Because the previous two was Stadium Stampede.
That's right. Yeah.
And now it's Anarchy in the Arena.
Yeah. There it is. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I think Blood and Guts was really good this year too.
Yes,
it was really good.
Way better than last year.
Yeah. And I think the moment of Eddie Kingston almost getting Jericho to tap and Claudio taking that moment from him just adds even more to whenever that blows up.
Right. Which it could blow up backstage for all we know.
That's true.
AEW, man, provides a lot of match of the year stuff. I mean, a lot of the Beach Break match that was Dynamite.
Yeah.
All the Bryan matches really, except the Mox.
Yeah.
Was it Dynamite? So they consistently, like we talked last week at WWE, we didn't mention any matches except for the Roman and
Riddle
match.
Yeah.
We didn't mention anything from Raw and SmackDown. Really, there were a couple of tag matches on Raw that was really good, but AEW, that's the opposite. Is we mentioned a lot of stuff from the weekly shows, a couple of things on the pay-per-views.
Yeah, because they only have 4 years, so you gotta kind of pick and choose.
Right, exactly. That leads us to feud of the year, man. And just like we rip the Band-Aid off for moment of the year, we're gonna remember Punk versus the Elite.
See, that's not mine because
I'm not saying it is.
But that's. If we're talking about like non-storyline, real life feud, absolutely, it's Punk versus the Elite.
Sammy Guevara and Andrade.
Yeah, Eddie Kingston and
Claudio,
Guevara. No, Eddie Kingston
and Guevara
too.
Yep.
To me though, like the feud of the year
in the ring,
it was my answer last year. It's my answer this year. CM Punk and MJF.
Yep.
Was the feud of the year,
and it's not even close.
I think you could put Moxley. And I think you could put Moxley Punk because their promos were crazy. I think you could just put Blackpool Combat Club because they feuded within each other a lot. I think you could put them.
That's true.
I think you could put them in there as well. And you know what? I think you could put Jungle Boy and Christian Cage in here.
You could. You're right.
Like I know we're not done with it yet, and the injury has
Luchasaurus in there is kind of like all three of them. Yeah.
But I think that to me that was crazy. If we were talking before the year, I would have said when we get to MJF Wardlow, it's going to be feud of the year.
Yep.
And then a lot of stuff happened. A lot of stuff happened that blocked that. Was Eddie Kingston and Jericho this year too?
Yep.
That was a great feud.
Yep.
That was a great feud as well. So I think you could throw any one of those. To me, it's Eddie Kingston and Jericho behind CM Punk and MJF.
I would say Adam Cole and Hangman
That's a good one too.
is up there
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
They had a lot of great matches, but more than great matches, they had a lot of great promos.
Yeah.
A lot of great stuff. I think that's deserving.
Yeah, and I think you could, like, for a recent one, you could throw the Acclaimed and Swerve in Our Glory in here because they've had a lot of I mean, we didn't even talk about their matches. Their matches were fantastic.
Right.
But the feud itself has been pretty good too.
Oh yeah, those tag matches, like I'm surprised you didn't mention those.
I try to steer away from tag matches because I could just literally just list
I know.
every tag match that everybody has been in for the most part.
That's true.
But yeah, I to me though, the clear cut winner is Punk and MJF.
Yeah. It's not even close, in my opinion.
Yeah.
All right. We have done match, moment, pay-per-view, feud, tag team. We just mentioned it. Again, this one, it's not even close in my opinion.
It's not even close in my opinion either.
It's the Acclaimed.
I think it's FTR. You don't get to hold 4 championships, 3 championships, and to me, the same level that the Usos are on in WWE, at the same level that FTR are in AEW. Now, I know they haven't done a whole lot in AEW this year, but the way that they were heating up in the early part of this year. We talked about it. We were at SmackDown before WrestleMania watching the Briscoes and FTR, which I think it's technically it's a Ring of Honor feud, but I'm throwing it in AEW as well. Is FTR and Briscoes is definitely the tag team feud of the year for me.
See, that's why I can't pick FTR in this category because they were heating up towards the beginning of the year, and then we haven't seen as much from them since.
I think since like Forbidden Door was kind of the last.
And
not
that
the last,
that
but
was in the middle of the year.
Yeah.
So okay. So if you're breaking it this way, first half of the year, tag team of the year,
FTR.
Second half,
the Acclaimed.
Yeah.
The Acclaimed are 10 times higher than everybody else right now.
You don't rise from the ashes the way that they have. Going from one of the most hated acts on the show to now literally the most popular in the company. Like, it's insane. Their rise has been insane.
It's been insane. I think you can also throw Swerve in Our Glory in here as well, because they've done great this year. I think you can throw in. I mean, you can always throw in the Lucha Brothers because
you can always throw in the Bucks because of what they do,
who they are, right? But to me, it comes down to FTR and the Acclaimed.
Sure does.
And I think it just depends on what part of the year you're looking at and what you're looking for.
Yep.
I think from an in-ring perspective, you have to go FTR.
Yes, I can see that. But what I was going to say is, like, the Acclaimed is not only the most popular thing on the AEW roster, they're good in the ring.
They're good in the ring as well. Yeah,
pretty good. They hold their own.
Yeah. So I think, honestly, I think you could flip a coin and it's one of the two.
I agree.
But to me, it's FTR. But the Acclaimed, I'm not taking anything away from them as well because they. Right. I mean, I've talked every time we talk about AEW, I'm always talking about how good the Acclaimed is and the Scissor Me stuff is literally.
And the raps.
If you watch, well, they literally wrestled when recording this Wednesday. Yeah. Like last Wednesday, they wrestled. The crowd was split because they were chanting like "Oh, Scissor Me Daddy," and then they were also the other half chanting FTR. So like it was a split crowd. They are the two most over tag teams in the company. You could throw the Bucks in there right now, off their return,
right?
But consistent has been FTR and the Acclaimed.
And you can't discount Max Caster's raps on the way to the ring, and just the way that adds to their character.
Yeah.
And all just the whole package.
Yeah.
To me, makes them tag team of the year.
Yeah.
But like you said, maybe for the second half of the year.
Yeah.
Because they didn't really start heating up until
the champion they got the opportunity.
Right.
It was really kind of the only time that they started.
And that was
up.
All Out, probably a little before All Out. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I remember when they won the number 1 contender, we both like, it's gonna be okay. It's the Acclaimed. Nobody cares really about the Acclaimed. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, we care about the Acclaimed.
It was like a switch flipped when they won that match.
Yeah.
It's like,
not even when they won, when they just wrestled in and they almost won.
True. That's right.
Like it was one of those where people were like, you should have switched the decision in the ring.
Right.
And it's like, no, like let the build to the story.
Right.
We're getting to the story, but it was crazy. It was literally like overnight.
Right.
It was over 30 minutes. It was like they just got completely over.
It really was. All right. Female wrestler of the year. This is the hardest category for me because there's just not a lot there.
To me, there are 2 names.
Yep.
You could throw 3.
Okay.
But of the 3, I think Britt's the least, in my opinion.
Okay.
I think the top 2 are Jamie Hayter and Toni Storm.
I will mutually agree that Toni Storm is the female wrestler of the year. I'm not going to say Jamie Hayter isn't up there.
Right.
I just think, much like the Acclaimed, her rise came a little bit later.
Yeah.
And she's certainly on a trajectory to be 2023 Women's Wrestler of the Year.
Absolutely.
Britt, the reason that we both mentioned Britt is just because she's consistently there.
Yeah.
We talked about Rollins and Kevin Owens last week and how they're consistently there, Sheamus, all that kind of stuff. Britt is just there. Britt has the aura. Britt is the star.
Yeah.
The room immediately focuses on her when she comes in.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's Britt.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, you can argue that she's the wrestler of the year. But I think it's Toni Storm.
Yeah.
I think she made a huge impact when she came in the end of the year last year, right?
I think so.
Or
it was
beginning of the year this year.
I think it was either the end of the year or the beginning. It was around that time period though.
But Toni Storm holding the title. And I feel like in some senses it's been quiet,
right?
But in other senses it's been huge. You know,
like she is the first women's champion that I can remember that consistently wrestled on weekly TV after she won the title,
right?
And like put on fantastic matches after she won the title. I think you also, controversy aside, you could throw Thunder Rosa in here as well. I think because of the way her title run has ended, it kind of takes her out a little.
She was one of the hottest things in the company at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, she was. And then it just very quickly fell apart, and Toni Storm kind of picked up that role.
Yep.
I think Athena could be thrown in here as well. Well, she's had a good year.
I was going to say, I hate to do this because you know how I feel about this, but an argument can be made for Jade Cargill.
Yeah.
You can make the argument for her.
I think what you said about Britt from the star perspective, not necessarily in ring, star perspective. When Jade Cargill is on screen, your attention is on Jade Cargill.
You're right. She's got it.
She's getting there in the ring. She's getting better. She's better than when she started. She's getting there. The presentation, I've said this from day one. The one thing AEW has done perfect with her is the presentation.
Sure.
And she feels like a star.
Sure she does.
So I think you can absolutely make the case for her. But I think it's Toni Storm. Like Toni Storm has had such a great year. Jamie Hayter, she's been popular most of the year, but it's really picked up towards this last half.
This one's going to be a fun one to debate.
This is going to be a fun one to debate.
I'm going to say this, much like WWE, I'm going to give the obvious answer up top.
Yeah.
And then we're going to talk about the rest of it.
Yeah.
Male wrestler of the year is Jon Moxley.
He's number one on my list.
And it is every single year since the beginning of AEW. I think you can argue Omega in 2020.
I think you could argue Jericho in 2019.
Okay.
And I think you could argue Paige last year.
In 2019 was short.
Right.
Well, I guess it was long because they did Double or Nothing. And that really kicked it off. So you can argue Jericho in 2019.
Omega in
2021 or 2020. Yeah, that's right.
I think you could argue Paige in 2021.
But I think it's
Moxley.
It's
Moxley has done more for AEW, more good for AEW than anybody else.
He is the face of that company.
He is the face. And the thing about him that makes him different than Cody Rhodes, not necessarily Kenny Omega, but also kind of Kenny Omega, is he can play either the babyface when he needs to, or he can switch it up and be the heel when he needs to.
And can be really good at it.
At both.
Make it so believable.
Yeah. He is on a completely different level.
Yep.
And that's the reason why what we talked about last week and this week, I still think the Shield's the greatest faction of all time because they've produced 3 literal mega stars in the industry.
They're getting there.
Yeah.
The thing is like it's not over for them.
No, we're just starting, it feels like, for Roman, for Mox and Seth. I think we're at the back half with Roman.
Let me ask you this, because we're kind of burning through these kind of quick here with AEW, but I want to ask you this real quick. This Jon Moxley that we see in AEW, obviously he's had this in him all along.
Correct.
Okay. And probably a lot of things that happened in WWE sort of fueled this Jon Moxley character.
Yeah.
Now with Triple H at the helm, could this version of Jon Moxley work in WWE? I'm not saying he needs to go back.
Right. No.
I'm just saying, could this, had they let this version of him out,
Yeah.
could it have worked?
Yes and no.
Okay, explain.
I think it could have worked, but I don't think it would have worked to the degree it's worked in AEW.
Okay.
Because I feel like even with Triple H in charge, the PG thing still keeps them hand-tied with some stuff.
Sure it does.
One of the things we love about Mox is the violence. Like, yeah, we make fun of him for bleeding every time, but when Moxley bleeds, it feels important. Like, there's no, it's like when Flair bled. Like, it's just a Moxley thing that adds more to it.
Right.
So you can't take
It's a
that
great
aspect
analogy,
away.
by the way. I had never thought of it that way.
You can't take away the violence aspect of Jon Moxley.
Right.
I think that's the one thing that would hinder him in AEW and WWE. Plus, when he cuts a promo in AEW, he doesn't care what he says.
Sure.
In WWE, I feel like he would have to, unless they just give him the Brock treatment, let him say whatever he wants to say.
Right.
But I don't feel like that would be the case. He is the embodiment of what AEW was built on.
Sure.
And that Jon Moxley is that. So I think there is a chance it would work, but I don't think it would have worked to this degree that it has worked now.
All right. I'm going to say this. I'm going to steal it from you.
That's fine.
Because I want to.
That's
because
fine.
it feels bigger coming from me
It
than
does.
from you.
Yeah.
CM Punk.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't deny Punk. Whatever happened this year, you can't deny that Punk was literally one of the biggest things in the company.
Yep.
And the worst thing that happened was the injury.
And again, both.
Yeah.
Because I don't hate CM Punk. I'm not the biggest of CM Punk fans.
Right.
I don't care for CM Punk. But I can recognize good wrestling when I see it, and I can recognize good promos when I see it, and good feuds, and he checks all of those boxes.
There has not been, maybe the Page one, there has not been one terrible match from Punk.
The Moxley squash match.
Even then, though, it was a storyline purpose.
Yeah, but I still stand by that, and it was awful.
It was it was a bad decision. There's no doubt about it. It was a bad booking decision, but it still made sense with the injury cell and all of the other stuff.
Yeah, I'm not going to hold that against him and say he's not wrestler of the year because of this.
Right.
I'm not going to do that.
Even the Page thing, like it was the only thing we remember is the one bad botch with the buckshot lariat that he tried twice, and did not work either time. But even then, like the one thing we were afraid of last year before he wrestled was like, it's been a long time. Does he still have it?
And it took him probably till the end of 2021 to get it.
He had a good match with Darby Allin. That's because it's Darby Allin, and Darby Allin's good. Darby Allin can make me look like $1 million with the way he sells. And then he went into the feud with Eddie Kingston, which the match wasn't anything special. The promos were ridiculous.
Right.
Goes in this feud with MJF where the promos every week are what you want in wrestling. Build all the way through. You get to him and Mox, which they have a short little feud, but the promos they cut back and forth were intense. Yep. You can't have this list and not mention him.
I agree.
Because he has embodied everything you wanted until everything fell off at the end.
I know we said a few minutes ago that the obvious answer is Jon Moxley, which it is.
Yeah.
But you made a comment earlier about a fill in the blank. You can't have a male wrestler of the year category and not mention Bryan Danielson.
Absolutely not.
Like, from an in-ring perspective, I know Kenny Omega puts on bangers and whatever. Nobody has touched Bryan Danielson this year.
No.
In the ring.
No. He has been the most consistent wrestler this year. I think, because you mentioned him, and so I'll just go ahead and bring him up as well. Kenny deserves to be on this list, even though he wasn't here most of the year.
Right.
But when he came in, like we talked about it before with Cody, you might not miss Cody every single week. When Kenny's not on TV, you miss him.
I've said that from the beginning.
Yeah.
He's the heart and soul of AEW.
He is.
And when he's not there, you know it.
And when Moxley wasn't there and when he wasn't there, it was this massive gap that nobody could fill.
Nope. That's right.
And so I think you have to put Kenny on this list for that. Another name I want to throw out that I've been praising all year that I have to throw out is Dax Harwood.
Yep.
The dude has been on a different level
Not a
year
name
round.
we would have expected at the
No,
beginning of the year.
But the dude has put on multiple matches of the years in a tag match and by himself. I mean, we didn't even talk about this in match of the year that I think it should have been brought up. Dax versus Cash was amazing.
Yep.
Like it was a fantastic match.
FTR and the Bucks.
FTR and the
on
Bucks.
That random Dynamite.
Dax versus Bryan Danielson from last week. Really, was it last week or 2 weeks ago? Last week.
Whenever we're dropping this, we're confused.
Yeah. As of recording, I think it was this past Wednesday.
Right, yeah.
What was that? Obviously the stuff he's been doing with the Briscoes and Ring of Honor, like Dax has just been killing it all year. Yep. I think he deserves to be on this list. And then Wardlow.
Yep.
You can't have this
name on my list.
You can't have this list and not bring up Wardlow.
He has had a fantastic year. He is turning into what we all wanted him to be.
Yep.
If there is one character that they are slowly developing and doing it correctly, it is Wardlow.
He is
for sure.
And I mean this with respect because you know how I feel about this person.
I know.
But he is this generation, AEW's version of Goldberg.
I think he could be. I think he's on his way.
I think the fans already see him as that though, because when they do the backstage thing, when I'm walking through the ring, they're chanting Wardlow. Like that stuff fits. And obviously, he's already better than Goldberg in the ring for sure. Like by far, the presentation stuff maybe not to that extent. I mean, he doesn't have the undefeated streak. I hate undefeated streaks in wrestling anyway because they back you into a hole anyway. I think he has the potential to be bigger than Goldberg.
It's like we said with I don't remember who we said this about. The Shield, about how it's not over yet.
Yeah,
Wardlow, it is far from over.
I don't even think we've started yet. Really,
it is far from over to see where this guy is going to go.
Yep.
What do you think now? I talked about Jon Moxley and if it would work in WWE. Do you think Wardlow would work in WWE?
He would be Drew McIntyre.
Like now?
Yeah. Like with Triple H, I think he would be like a Drew McIntyre. I think he would work in WWE.
Is that a good or a bad thing?
I think
because there's criticisms about Drew.
Right.
For sure.
Right.
Is that a good or a bad thing?
The thing I will say about if Wardlow being in WWE is there's a lot of guys that look like Wardlow already in WWE. Mm-hmm. I mean, a Lashley, a Drew.
He stands out.
He stands out in AEW. There's not a lot of guys his size. I think Powerhouse Hobbs you could throw in there, but Powerhouse isn't even as tall as he is. Joe's not as tall as he is. Luchasaurus, I think, is like one of the ones that's that fits that.
Satnam is bigger, but he clearly is not skilled.
Right. So I think the only two guys that are that size that work consistently is Wardlow and Luchasaurus in AEW. But in WWE, you got Drew, you've got Braun Breaker in NXT that's coming up at some point. You got Bobby, you've got Brock, you've got Omos, you've got, which Wardlow's 10 times better than Omos in the ring. But but I think he would work in WWE, but I feel like he is better off to be the star in AEW.
I just feel like if he came to WWE, there are a lot of guys that we would look at in the past and say, well, if he came to WWE, they wouldn't know what to do with him.
Yep.
If he came to WWE, they would know what to do with him. He just wouldn't feel like the star he does in AEW.
And I think another name that I'm surprised we have not mentioned yet, I don't know how we haven't mentioned his name yet, that kind of fits that mold, but not really, MJF. Like MJF has had a fantastic, even though he missed a portion of it, he was still the most talked about thing in the section he missed. He was still the most talked about thing in AEW. So like I think you definitely have to have MJF on this list. I don't know if MJF would work in WWE, to be honest.
No. They're talking about the bidding war of 24. I honestly don't want him in WWE because he will not feel as special and like a star and be let loose.
Unless that's the one thing. They have to, if they want him to be who he is, they have to let him let loose.
Yep.
And I don't think they want that headache.
Can't do it.
They don't want that headache.
I don't think they can do it.
Right.
Too much politicking, too much, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So no,
but he absolutely, to me, he's top 3 wrestler of the year this year.
But we're still agreeing on Moxley.
Yes, Moxley. You know, and another name we haven't even mentioned that deserves to be on this list is Paige.
Yeah.
And Cole. Like both of them deserve to be on this list.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a weird year in AEW. The thing that has hurt them a lot this year is injuries. Like the injury bug hit them hard around Forbidden Door because at Forbidden Door, Adam Cole got hurt in literally a freak accident.
And haven't seen him since.
Haven't seen him since. Adam Page has been hurt a couple times this year in a freak kind of accident. Danielson's been hurt off and on. Obviously, Kenny Omega's been hurt. CM Punk's been hurt. John Moxley's been hurt.
MJF's been off.
Samoa Joe's kind of been hurt here and there. So it's been a weird year, but that there's been a lot of standouts through that.
Yeah, for AEW, you got to be thanking your lucky stars that you have such a deep roster.
Yeah.
That the resources that you can pull from.
Yeah.
So that I'm not saying they couldn't have continued with all these, but look, if the injury bug would have hit WWE the same way they hit AEW, WWE would be hurting.
Like if Roman, Seth, Drew, Kevin Owens,
and Cody,
Cody, Edge. Like if those 6 guys got hurt,
Balor,
there's not a whole lot to work with.
Yeah.
I mean, there is, and we would be happy about some of it because it would give people like Chad Gable and Matt Riddle an even bigger platform, like it has for Dax Hardwood and Wardlow and some other guys. But it's also like, man, we're missing Roman. Man, we're missing Seth. Like there would be a massive gap.
The hole would be bigger.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
All right, man. That's going to wrap up AEW End of the Year Awards. That's going to wrap up season 3 of the PipeBomb Wrestling Podcast. Anything else to add on this or anything else before we sign off for a couple weeks?
We're heading into my favorite time of the year with WWE. I know we're heading into WrestleMania season. I love the Rumble more than I love WrestleMania. Right. And so I'm looking forward to the Rumble. I'm looking forward to AEW because I feel like AEW in 2023 is going to have a lot to prove, both in ring and out of ring. They're going to have a lot that they want to prove.
Yep.
And, some reports have come out recently that have kind of shed a light on what Tony Khan was dealing with during the All Out stuff, which I don't even know if you've heard about it or not. Between All Out and all that, his mom had a stroke or whatever, and so obviously there was a lot going on, which is amazing that he kind of juggled everything that he did to the extent that he did. So I think with a lot of new guys and a lot of new roles in AEW, I think 2023 is going to be a special year for them.
They got to get it figured out. I'm not saying they're behind the 8 ball, but WWE is rolling down the tracks.
It is
full steam ahead.
Yep.
Again, like we talked about last week, not every booking decision has been great, but you still have to tune in every week to figure out what's going to happen. It's must-see TV over on the other side, talking about WWE. So how's AEW going to rise up and match it?
Yeah, and I think, through the summer.
And WWE was in the same position a year and a half, 2 years ago with what AEW was. So
after Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson showed up, AEW was not, you couldn't miss it.
Right.
Like you could not miss it because there was just so much going on, a lot of good stuff. And during that time in WWE, it was like, we're just kind of moving along a little slow. We're dealing with Roman Reigns versus Finn Balor, the Demon, which still bugs me that they have not brought that up to this day about what really happened.
Right.
And then now we're on the flip side, like, we got Bray back and he's rolling. Roman's rolling. The Bloodline is the best storyline in wrestling right now. Sami Zayn's killing it. Seth is killing it. AEW's got to pick it up, but with the talent they have, they could literally the next episode they could pick it up and just keep running with it.
They'll figure it out.
Yeah. So I think now that everybody is slowly starting to be back, we've got the Elite back, we've got Moxley back, we've got Page back. Once we get Adam Cole back, if he comes back, like they'll be off to the races and they'll be running, and it'll start to feel like AEW once again.
It'll be interesting to see. Yeah. For sure. It will be must see, and we'll keep you up to date starting in season 4. Again, first week of January, we will be back, catch you up on all things we're going to miss. I think we're going to miss Winter is Coming. I think that's at the end of December. Is that right?
It's happened the Wednesday this comes out.
Okay.
So next week, as of recording this upcoming Wednesday.
There you go. So we're going to miss Winter is Coming. We'll get you caught up on that. Again, like we said last week, it's Rumble season.
Yep.
We're going to get started on that. Headed full steam ahead towards the Rumble. There won't be a WWE pay-per-view in December to miss. So we'll see what's going on. And then Revolution will be right around the corner for AEW. So I'm sure we'll be talking about that. So all that to say.
And then we're at WrestleMania.
And then we're at WrestleMania before you know it. Probably going to get Elimination. We'll get Elimination Chamber in between. Rumors of a couple other shows that might happen in between.
Yeah.
So we'll keep you updated on all that. Follow us at PBW Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Keep it locked in right here wherever you find your podcast. Sportswire Radio and the Body's Undone that YouTube channel. For Mr. Andy York, my name is Chris Belcher. Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy New Year. We will see you the first week of January, Season 4, PipeBomb Wrestling Podcast. We'll catch you guys